Okay, so just make yourself comfortable. I would like to you just begin by relaxing and arriving. Even though we are already here, we still arrive. And something that can be very helpful in this journey into the body with all of its all of the feedback that it is willing to provide for us that can sometimes feel like we don't want to go there, is this idea that however relaxed that you feel, you can always relax a little bit more. So we want to keep this sort of echoing in the background in each and every posture, that if we're believing or feeling that we're completely relaxed, just go a little bit deeper, just open up a little bit more space for yourself and really start to explore how important and foundational and really healing true relaxation and rest really is. So it's never about the particular poses that we do. It's about you cultivating a healthy and a therapeutic and a conscious relationship with your own body and your own mind. And now the inquiry of yoga. So let us begin just by rolling up a blanket and having some awareness that the height of your roll will determine the amount of compression in your lower back. So adjust that accordingly. Yep. So what I'm going to suggest is very simple, and then partway through we're going to add a little something. I was going to say we we're going to add a little twist, but actually we are going to add a little twist. So what we're going to do is we're going to sit in front of the roll that you've rolled up. So the roll is going sideways, hip to hip, horizontally. And then keeping the feet on the floor and the buttocks on the floor initially, you can just come back to your hands and just start to place that roll into that lumbar area. I think it's good maybe to stay on the forearms a little and sway and make sure there's no hidden muscular tension that this might trigger and spasm. You can also determine here if you want the roll a little bit higher or lower. Sometimes you can tell just from here, but you'll know more when you put the upper body down. Then keeping the feet on the floor will relax the upper body back down. And when you feel like you're good, then you can just relax the feet out. And if the pelvis is tilted and the buttocks has come off the floor, just kind of scoot down a little bit. Really do make sure the buttocks is on the floor and that both legs can relax. The arms can just be at the side. And then determine, just really evaluate here this level of compression that we're inviting. Is it appropriate for you for a relatively, what will seem like a relatively long time? So this is what we want. We want to just sink in and we want to feel that relaxation start to seep in. This idea that however relaxed I feel that I am, I can always relax a bit more. as you begin here to receive the sensations and allow gravity to pull you more viscerally into your body, see if you can just simply visualize the entire length of the spine. So you can do this with the breath, you can do this with simply awareness, you can visualize a felt sense from the sacral area, just unfolding up into the base of the skull. And one of the things that we want to allow into this somatic awareness, this somatic exploration, is that even though we do sort of a variety of different positions with the body, all of this sort of superficial geometry, essentially, and this is essential to yoga, and sometimes we can forget this, but what's at the essence of our yoga physiologically is to create more and more distance between each of the vertebrae. So any feelings of openness, any feelings of relief, any feelings of tension dissipating is going to be foundational to this creating distance between the vertebra. And this, and another way to think of this is starting to free up the spine. So if we have a spine that ligamentally and muscularly, the tissues are contracted and the spine is tight, the spine misaligned, then the spine is not going to be free. So the essence of this hatha yoga, the essence of the mechanical, anatomical exploration is ultimately to get more space, to free the spine. And once the spine becomes increasingly free, then we can decide, do we want to put the body in this position to explore something connected to that? But ultimately, this is our exploration. So just allow that then in this backward bend, just allow yourself to, again, receive, feel, and have some connection, have some awareness that this sacral area of the body, pelvic area, and then all of these lovely vertebrae that articulate right up through and into the base of the skull. And part of this process at some point, and this is why we put so much value on relaxation, is to, at some point, just allow the structure, the asana, to fade away. It's not important. We don't want to hold the mindset that we are doing a yoga asana. We just want to simply let go of that. And we want to feel the presence of the body as much as possible, and then just let the body reveal what it will reveal. This is not a linear process, in that we do put the body in a certain position, we'll get a certain kind of feedback, and on and on. It's much, much deeper than that. There's a much more complexity in the body than that. So what I would like to suggest from here, and it is just a suggestion, if you feel you're in a lovely place here, or you need to release and bring the pelvis up onto the roll, feel free to do that. But if you're able to move a little bit further, what I would like to do here is just simply bend the knees, put the feet flat on the floor, and do this very gently. This is not like a reclining twist when we're just lying flat on the back. Because of the compression in the lumbar area, it's going to be a little bit different. So with the feet on the floor and the knees bent, let both knees just start to float to the right side. So you'll feel the weight of both knees. And then you may need or want to, I like to walk at least my left foot off to the left and then slide that right foot maybe under that left thigh or left knee. So just open the hips appropriately by making that adjustment. We'll just let the weight of both legs draw you into now this lumbar compression and reclining twist combined in one. Another thing that you can begin to explore is that there's no need to conceptualize your sensations. So there is always a tendency to do that. And this is I was going to say the mind, but it's also the ego's way of distracting us. So if we can conceptualize it, if we can start to think about it and start a storyline about it, we don't have to feel it as directly or as deeply as it is. So there's no need to conceptualize what you're feeling. Just simply allow the sensation to arise and to fade. And this is whether you're in the center of it, if you feel like you have pinpointed and you're sure that's where it is, or it's more generalized and maybe just a vague achiness. The entire body is communicating to you. We may want to think that it's this one spot, but it's not. It's the entire body. The entire body is in this flow and in this very, very intelligent state of coming in and out of balance. So this is what we're listening for. We're just allowing. And this allows us then to relax the mind and just sink into this, this somatic sensitivity. So if you do have your knees over to the right, let's very, oh so slowly start to bring them up and put the feet back on the floor and maybe have a little sway of the knees back and forth here. And then keep the feet on the floor. And if you're able to just scoot your body back and bring that roll under your pelvis. So to me, when we're been in this backward bend this long, this is the safest way to come out of it. So just scoot back a bit, get the back of the pelvis, that sacral area, up onto the roll. Let some of that lower back tension do what it will. And this is what I'm talking about. It arises and it fades. So now it's fading, it's dissipating, reverberating back into the energy channels. We're not compressing anymore. Good. And then from here, when you've worked some of that out, take longer if you need, let's just roll over to your side and come on up. And once you're sitting up, just simply extend the left leg out. And we're going to take the right leg and just very, very easily, don't force it, bring that right leg up and over the left leg so this right foot is just coming back towards that left hip just a bit. But don't try to force the knees together or force this left foot back, just more relaxed than anything. And since we had both knees off to the right, where that twist was targeted, we're going to go back into that area approximately with a sitting twist. So let the left leg be relaxed, let the right leg be relaxed, and just twist off to the left a bit. So just turn the whole upper torso to the left and then come forward into a forward bend. Yeah, and it doesn't really matter how deep here. Use your hands on the floor or pull some pillows, blankets, or a bolster in to relax the arms on. And it doesn't really even matter how far over to the left you are, just a little bit of twist, and then the body weight pulling you down and in will be plenty. But certainly don't make a technique or an effort out of not conceptualizing the sensations. So if you find that you are, and it's very natural, a lot of it is just habit. It's just pathways in our body that have become very habitual. But do the same thing with the conceptualizing. Just allow it to arise and allow it to fade. One of the things that we're exploring and really trusting is that the openness of awareness is just infinitely spacious. So anything and everything can arise. There are no limits at what can arise in your awareness. So we want to get, just as we're freeing the spine, we want to free ourselves from any do's or don'ts or good or bad or how we should be doing it. We just want to have this beautiful open presence of awareness and then allow whatever arises to arise. And then when we give ourselves that freedom and we give ourselves that permission, we don't have to judge, we don't have to make these sort of internal commentaries, and we can see how freeing it is. How freeing it is just to give ourselves, there's something that's arising, that's something is fading. Physical sensations, emotional weather, mental repetitions, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so what we're going to do here before you roll up, I would ask you to bring yourself back to a straight spine. Yeah, and just settle here for a moment and make sure that we're not rolling up out of the position from a twisted spine. Not recommended. So we want to straighten out the spine, and then from here you can roll up.
And then you can extend that leg out, that right leg out. And we're just going to take a moment because we're going to actually do the whole thing on the other side. I don't know if you noticed that we didn't do the twist with the legs to the left, but that was intentional. So, just have a little movement, whatever you need to let it all dissipate, let the chi distribute. And then we'll do the same thing. The only thing to be aware of is second time, you may want to go a little bit lower with your roll, or you may want to go a little bit higher. You may want to stay the same. So whatever works for you. So the same thing, we're just going to simply have our roll horizontally, hip to hip. We'll sit in front of it, put the feet on the floor. And even though we've done it, best to be cautious and keep the buttocks on the floor, check in here. This is where you may determine for an adjustment or not. And then with the feet on the floor, let the upper body come back. Again, if the pelvis is tilted and the buttocks is dipped off the floor, place it back on there. You just scoot down a little bit and then let your legs relax out. And here we are, right back in this position. So if you are breathing through your mouth and you're able to breathe through your nose, I'd like you to just close your mouth, just bring your lips together, relax your tongue so your palate can relax, and gently begin to breathe in through your nose and breathe into your nasal passages. And just feel that. So we're not doing this as a breathing technique. We're using this just as we would use a roll to compress into the lower back. We're using the breath to gather information and see how this area of your body feels, such an incredibly important area of your body. So very gentle breaths into the nasal passages. And be sensitive on the inhalation and be sensitive on the exhalation. And behind the nasal passages are the sinus passages. So imagine that you're moving through those little passageways of the nasal passages and breathing right into the sinus passages. And again, just to feel, to relax, to gather information. And from here, begin to breathe into the skull itself. So much attention is always given to the brain. We have these big brains, but the importance of the skull and the plates of the skull and the way that we hold the skull onto the neck, allow yourself to just visualize and breathe into the skull itself, behind the eyes, at the base of the skull, possibly into the ear canal and the vestibular system. So just feel this. The inhalation brings you into a sensitivity, the exhalation, a sensitivity. And again, absolutely no need to conceptualize these sensations, but just feel them. And see if you can relax your eyes, the space behind your eyes, relax your jaw. And from the base of the skull, allow your awareness now to breathe into the throat area. So this is an area that we usually approach in a relatively superficial way, talking all the time. So see if you can sink in, go deeper into your throat. Is there energy there? Is there a blockage there? Is there information there that you can receive from the breath permeating the depth of the throat center? And again, let's bend the knees, put the feet flat on the floor. And again, going very slowly and carefully, we'll bring both of the knees over to the left. Yeah, and then if you want to walk that right foot over a bit, readjust that left foot so you're in just the right position. And if it is too much intensity, you can always place a pillow or something, a blanket under that left thigh if you need to alleviate the compression a bit. And when you do continue to relax this a little bit more and this little bit more, it's really a very positive thing to connect with that, to connect with the energy of resting, the energy of relaxation, because this is one of, if not the most powerful ways that your uh, body rejuvenates and detoxifies, the brain included. So if we are continually living and experiencing various levels of stress, then the adrenal glands, the outer layer of the adrenals is secreting cortisol, the inner of the adrenals, adrenaline, then it's very hard sometimes to shut those off. We can't just shut those off. The adrenal glands have this interesting function. So when we do feel, we do allow ourselves to be into this deeper relaxation, we want to acknowledge it. We want to reinforce it and really even honor it. This is the doorway into bringing us into a beautiful state of equanimity. Good. So once again, if you do have your knees off to the side, let's bring them up nice and slowly. And again, a little back and forth might do, just to check in with how your low back is feeling. And I'm suggesting when you're ready to elevate the hips a bit and just bring yourself back and place the back of the hips onto the roll there. Just scoot back a bit. And then a little bit more movement. And it depends. Sometimes it releases right away, this unwinding. Sometimes it takes longer. So don't be in a rush. Be gentle and patient with your body. And this is also part of the relaxing, not just when we're in a shavasana, but giving your bodies a reassurance that you're willing to be patient and gentle with it. And this is how we begin to listen, and your body begins to trust that you are, really respecting it and not continually pushing it past where it needs to be. Good. Good. So again, we can roll off to the side. We'll come on up. And we're going to continue with the sitting twist now. So we'll keep the right leg extended out. We're going to bring the left leg up and over and bring that foot just somewhere near that right hip. And then nice to, before we twist, always to kind of elongate the spine a bit. So we're not twisting from it already feeling a little compressive. And so again, this is what I was saying, this idea of making more space between the vertebrae, freeing the spine. So we can always just practice that and feel that and let the head relax on the shoulders. And then just a gentle twist from that relaxed spine over to the right and coming forward. And again, use whatever bolstering you need to rest your hands or your forearms on. Do try to drop the head down so the entirety of the spine is relaxed. Often if we're holding the head, we're actually reinforcing tension in the neck because there's a lot of fear in this area of the body. But approach it just like any other discomfort. If there's discomfort that you can feel safe about approaching in the neck, do approach it. And the way we do that is by really letting the weight
of the whole head relax down, so the chin comes down towards the chest, and you'll feel what's going on, and explore it.
And the real beauty of this relaxation is that the physical relaxation is really, in a way, just a consequence of our innate capacity to uh, just rest in awareness. So we rest in this awareness that is present with what is, just exactly what is, moment to moment. So we're not being drawn to what we want it to be, what we thought it was, but we're resting in this awareness which is present in just how it is. And this is a relaxation that will permeate your physicality, will permeate the fluctuations of your emotions, and will permeate the seamless, endless stream of thinking. We get some space between one thought and the next, without judging, and without judging.
Okay, so once again, if you are still in this side bend, let's bring the whole body so the head is a bit over that extended leg, and we straighten the spine. And you can just wait down here for a bit. Just let the shoulders relax, let the head relax. And then let's roll up. So feeling the space between the vertebrae, feeling the vertebrae articulate, feeling the spine becoming a little bit more free each time we contract and open. And then let's extend this left leg out, and let's lie down, and we will take a rest. I'm just going to get this book I was reading today. You know, I think I'm not going to read this to you. I was going to read this to you, and I thought, it's from a fascia textbook. It reads like poetry to me, but I'm looking at it now, and it just seems a little technical, so I won't, please don't let me bore you with reading from fascia textbooks. Let me not disturb your rest. But basically, what it was saying, the poetry of it, and this is what Dr. Gamberteau discovers when he brings his little cameras into the living body,
is that the deeper we go, the less definition there is, the less we can find separate parts, and that everything is morphing and changing and communicating and breathing, and this incredible aliveness is in no way can be described by talking about parts. It's not translatable into language. And this is what I was saying in a few classes back, that we start to see and feel that the neural tentacles of the mind, yeah, all of these neurons of the brain, they're actually rooted in the physical body, in the cellular and the molecular substratum of the body, and they're registering everything. So the mind, the brain is getting these signals of everything that you experience. It's this beautiful flow and sway and back and forth. And what I'm saying is that at some level, those distinctions blur. At some level, there is no mind, there is no body. It's just this amazing flow of aliveness and energy, and it doesn't even matter what we call it, we feel it. Good, so let's come on up. And what I have done is I've taken that same blanket I used for the roll, and I have made a nice little pad with it. And what I mean by a pad is I just kept folding it over several times, and then I have come up with something that approximates like a yoga block. So if you have a yoga block, it's that approximate size. So you just keep folding your blanket. And if you have a yoga block, I would recommend not to use it. I would prefer you use the blanket, because we want to get a little bit higher. With the rigidity of the yoga block, we can only go below the scapula. I want to get onto the scapula with this. So fold up your blanket so it's nice like that. And if you have a really soft blanket, you could add a secondary layer. You could add another blanket on top. Again, the height will be determined pretty much by the feedback you get from the body, so certainly don't force it. And then what I want to do, once again, is I want to sit in front of this. So this is just going to not be in the lower back. So you're going to sit a little distance from it. And then you'll have to gauge depending on your torso. So we can't be exact here, but we're going to put the feet on the floor, lower yourself down onto your forearms, and then place that upper edge of that pad, blanket pad, right about at the lower end of the scapula. Now that may be hard to find, but you'll feel it. So it's not so low you're feeling a pulling or a stretching in the lower back. We want it higher. It's not way up towards the shoulders. It's certainly below the shoulders. So right about sort of at the sternum area. And then depending on the height of your pad, you may want to put something under your head. Yeah, I would definitely, for me, I would put something under my head because it's a little bit too much for my neck. So just put something appropriate. Certainly try not to pull the head all the way up so the chin starts to tuck. We want the chin a little bit above the forehead. And then you could, it's very nice here to let the arms come over the head. So now we're just from the bottom rib cage all the way up into the shoulders, having this lovely expansion. Or you may want to put the arms out to the side at first and let your midsection shoulder blades acclimate to this.
So your choice for right now, and then I'll remind you of the arms a little bit later. And another thing that you can think about is, so I brought my head to a certain position and my neck is starting to relax, and I may want to explore of bringing it down a few levels as we go through the pose. See, already it feels much better to let it drop down because it's had time to feel safe and to understand how the body's reacting to the geometry. Yeah, good.
And if you choose, this is also a particularly lovely position to close your mouth and breathe through your nose. And again, just very, very gently breathe into your nasal passages, your sinus passages. Breathe into the physicality of your skull, the base of the skull, the throat. And again, using the breath to explore, to gather information. And this takes just a great subtlety and a great nuance. This is not technique. This is not something that we're going after in a linear way. This is very, very nuanced to allow the breath itself to approach an area and then give you feedback. One of the ways that we can cultivate and really continue our exploration of this healing relaxation, this quality of deep rest and deep well-being, is to be careful that our study of the body and the mind and the heart, and our study of our dharma, it doesn't become too dense or too serious. Samsara, these grooves, these patterns that we're all living out in this incarnation, samsara is very much like just a vast theater with many, many little soap operas going on. So it can be very helpful and lighthearted to begin to see our life as a drama, and that our role is not fixed, that we have a role, but it's not necessarily our identity. Yeah, the yoga is asking us to look beyond the role, is giving us an opportunity to explore our true nature. So the role is just something that we're playing with. The role is just our role in the soap opera. So we can start to, not only loosen up the body and have some space between our thoughts, but we can loosen up these roles that we've cultivated. Certainly since childhood, we have layer upon layer upon layer of roles, of identities. And so we want to be careful. What I'm saying is not to become too dense or serious with those. And this is, I think, particularly helpful because we don't live in isolation, we live in relationship. And so we reveal ourselves to ourselves through revealing ourselves to others. So we want to see if we're caught in patterns, if we're caught in ways of being in these roles and these identities that maybe don't support our deepest well-being and don't support our growth. And this is always open for exploration. So relaxation and not taking it too seriously, seeing it as play, seeing it as this vast drama of samsara, and exploring what this means, that we reveal ourselves to ourselves through revealing ourselves to others. It's such a beautiful study. And it doesn't even mean that the individual has to be right in front of us. We can energetically feel this sense of expression. one of the things to keep in mind is when we start to explore this resting in awareness in just what's present in exactly how it is, there's often a tendency, and again, this is part of our, our psychological emotional grooves, that it's a much easier to do when things feel good, when the body feels open, when that place feels relaxed. But the real learning, the real growth comes from being able to do that, to just sit with a relaxed equanimity, even if it's not feeling good, to resist the need to try to change it. Because this is not equanimity. Equanimity doesn't mean just trying to get everything in line so it feels good and comfortable. Equanimity is just being able to sit with whatever is arising and seeing that the discomfort, the challenge, the strong patterns of whatever they are have as much to teach us as when we come to this place of peace and calm and balance. So life is brilliant that way. Life will always provide for you exactly what you need when you need it. And the practice, the meditation is, can we sit in awareness and just be present with how it is? Is it easy? Yes, it is. Is it easy? No, it's not. So if you've not put your arms over your head, you may want to just explore that. And again, just to feel the opening of the ribs and the shoulders. And whether your arms are over your head or not, if you can bring your attention to the place right below the rim of the rib cage, and see if you can breathe in a balanced way. See if you can have the inhale equal to the length of the exhale in length and also in intensity. And just see if you can feel the subtle movement. So on your inhale breath, that diaphragm is going to contract downward a bit. And on your exhale breath, the diaphragm is going to relax upward a bit. So very important not to try to force this, but allow yourself to feel it. Just allow it to be a felt sense. This is a primary connection that we want to start to feel, that there's movement in our respiratory diaphragm when we're breathing in and breathing out. There's a tension that we hold in the solar plexus and the belly and the chest, directly related to this very fascinating muscle that the fascia starts to tighten, and it's enveloped with fascia, and it tightens, and then it restricts our breathing patterns. The restriction of the breathing patterns has far-reaching effects in terms of our levels of stress and our energy patterns. So very gently, when we have the chest open, to inhale and feel a little bit of movement down, exhale, and that movement comes back up into the chest. let's begin to think about releasing this, have a little movement. Put the feet on the floor. So just a little sway back and forth, maybe shoulder to shoulder. Just make sure you're staying very conscious when we bring movement here. And then when you feel safe, you can roll out of it, and we'll take a rest now. Okay, well, you talked me into it. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to read this one sentence because it sort of really says it all without all the sort of the technical jargon around it. So basically, talking about the deep, deep inner level of the body, the micro level of the body. And this is so beautiful because he's talking about empty space. He says empty space must have an active role as well. At the subatomic level, the distinction among matter, energy, and space becomes hazy, as does the distinction among the different forces such as gravity, elasticity, heat, motion, electricity, magnetism, and chemical bonding. So it's very interesting to develop these habits that we think we know what the body is. We maybe know some anatomy, or we've received some diagnosis, but the reality is we cannot really put a definition on life force. We can't put a definition on prana, on energy. So the approach to our body is to slow down enough to actually feel it. And this is such an interesting correlation to what I was saying earlier about the drama of who we think we are, the roles that we hold, the personas that we hold. At some level, when we get to the truth of who we are, we cannot put a definition on that. It's beyond definition. Words like awareness and consciousness and enlightenment, these just are pointers around the periphery, if you will. So it just becomes a very beautiful experience to just relax from all of that we think we know about ourselves, even if it's very, very refined, even if it's the final teachings that are preparing us to take the final step, to let it all go, at least momentarily, and just sit quietly with our breath, just sit quietly with the not knowing. And this is the yin, this is the quality of yin, and the power of the feminine is honestly not knowing and sitting respectfully with the power of that, because then we can open up for something fresh. We can open up for the intelligence of life to present what's next for us. What's the next teaching? What is the next insight? What is the next inspiration? So let's come on up, if you will, please. And you may want to have some bolstering or some, well, bolstering, pillows or bolsters. It's just something to support you in this next one. So what I'm going to recommend here is what we like to call in yin approach, the half frog position. So we will keep our left leg extended just right where it is in front of you, or if it's there. And then I'm just going to turn to show you this back leg. And then we'll take the right leg and just open it up behind you. So depending on the contractions in your hips, it may not get very far. It doesn't have to. We certainly don't want to force it. You just want to feel a very slight external rotation of this right hip. And then once you have that, again, depending on the contractions in your hips, you may go way over to the left. That's where the bolstering comes in. So we want to bolster up as much as you need to on the left side of the left leg so you can relax and come forward. So we're wanting to come forward. If the hips allow and you want to come on the inside of that left leg, you can put your bolstering on the inside of the leg. Yeah. And then if the hips are feeling pretty nice, you might just come to the hands more towards the center, to the forearms, or just to relax down and place the forehead onto the hands somewhere between the knees. But that's also not just hips, but also the beauty of this particular pose, and I know it's not everybody's favorite in the beginning, is it will target a part of the hamstring that doesn't get targeted in just a forward fold or a straddle. So to really, really start to open the hamstrings, this is just a beautiful posture to do that. Not to mention the sort of the torquing into the hips. So let yourself find an appropriate place. Doesn't matter where the upper body comes down. Try not to, again, hold the head with the tension of the neck. Really relax the head down and just kind of sink into it.
This is a lovely position to explore that however relaxed you feel you are, you can always relax a little bit more. Good. So we'll come up from here.
And then just keep the left leg where it is. And we'll bring that right leg around front and just keep it moving and put the sole of the right foot somewhere along the inside of the left leg. And really the placement will be determined by how relaxed the hip can be. So if you pull it all the way in, like you think this is how it's supposed to be, but it tightens the hip, not so good. So let it relax until that hip relaxes and the knee will relax. Again, if this is a lot of weight on this right side, you can put something under the thigh or the knee, and then we'll come forward. So coming forward here, you want to approach the first layer of sensation and then sway the body a little bit because you may be off to the left or to the right, which is good. So the tightening in the, well, wherever you're feeling it, and I'm feeling it in the lower back, will kind of determine where you want to settle. Then when you get to a good spot, it feels appropriate, then either bolster up or just start to relax into stillness. One of the reasons that yoga offers this suggestion to allow yourself to simply be present with the sensations and that there's no need to conceptualize them. This is because one of the primary things that we are exploring is that embodiment and conceptualizing are not the same thing. So we're exploring how to be more fully embodied. And certainly this has consequences in terms of just being more relaxed and open and flexible and hydrated in the physical body. It has the physical applications, but also there's a consideration that whatever it is that we do, whatever intellectual, creative, relational activities we have will only be enhanced by being more fully embodied. That our endeavors, whether they're meditation, spiritual, whether they're whatever they are, will be less if we're not fully embodied. So we're coming from a grounded place of embodiment, and then what our explorations are, they're rooted, they're grounded. So the distinction we make, the discernment, is conceptualizing is not embodiment. Embodiment is not conceptualizing. And so we allow ourselves this direct contact with our sensory experience.
Good. So let's come on up from here. Again, just allowing the spine to articulate open here. Take that right leg and straighten it out. And we'll do the other side of this. So same thing, we'll just keep the right leg extended out, and we'll take that left leg and open it out. Yeah, it doesn't have to be too far back there. The only distinction I'm making is that when I say to bend it, we're not keeping the knees side by side. This is a different position and would affect the forward bend very differently. So we're opening it out to open this left hip on this side. Then coming forward, support yourself like you did on the other side in an appropriate way, depending on where the hips want to send you. Ultimately, like I said, we're coming more center when hamstring and hips start to cooperate, but that could be, for some of us, a few lifetimes down the road, but hey, that's all we have is time, right? So be patient, relax, settle in, learn to love this position. So if something does arise that is challenging, uncomfortable, painful, whatever it is, we can slow down the time between actually experiencing it and reacting. And if we can take a moment before we react and just honor it, just actually bow to it, because it's there for a reason. It's there to teach us something. So we can slow down the reactivity and take a moment and honor it as our teacher. Then in just even a brief time, we can start to open up to more options. And this is interesting to certainly do with our physical body and with our emotional body and with our mental energies. So the slowing down of the yin is just an incredibly profound and deep process. And it's something we're always cultivating. And this is something that allows us to come into true equanimity. So then when we have our busyness and our activity and our sort of movement, there's a depth of stillness, there's a depth of slowness that we can find balance with. So equanimity is not this or that. It's not a thing. It's an individual process. It's a balance. Okay, so we'll come up from here, and the same thing. We will leave the right leg where it is. We'll allow that left leg to come around,
find proper placement on the inside of the right leg, have our bolsters if we need them, commit to relaxing and rounding and softening the lower back. Take a moment and evaluate how deep you're going and where actually the torso weight will hover, and then just settle in. I think sometimes what it comes down to is, there's this medicine and there's that medicine and there's this method and there's that method, on and on. And then there's the body the way it actually is. And this is what we're attempting to cultivate an intimacy with. Very, very personal, very, very intimate, very, very nuanced. And not that we don't want to use the medicines and use the methods, but we want to use them from an intuitive expression. We want to be guided there by the wisdom of every cell in our body. So if we bypass that, then we're in the realm of trial and error. So this is part of the slowing down, to slow down and sit quietly below the medicines and the methods and see the body the way that it really is, what's really going on. And I don't mean that in a specific way. Sometimes we get specifics. I just mean the listening to the impulses, the way the body expresses itself when it needs to rest and when it needs to move, when it needs to drink water and when it needs to rest. And I think within that, we want to start to feel our sort of our willingness to see that the complexity of it, and to allow the complexity of it to then just unfold into utter simplicity. But then at the same time, allow that utter simplicity to then unfold back into a sense of complexity. That always within complexity, there's simplicity, and always within simplicity, there's complexity. So we don't have to choose. We don't have to have an either or. We can simply listen. And it's this deep intuitive listening that puts us in touch with our really our true nature on almost every level. Okay, so let's come on up from there and let us take a rest. So lie down and we will take a rest. So this genuine and authentic peace, then it comes from relaxing out of the energy of either or, not this, not that, because these grooves, these patterns, these habits, this conditioning, this programming, yoga we call it the samsara, is samsara just arises on the basis of polarities, good and bad, special, not special. So yoga, another way to say yoga is to say non-duality. And non-duality is always inclusive. There's nothing outside of it. Love is always inclusive. Awareness is always inclusive. So this is always a little red flag, if you will, for us, that when we start to enter in the either or, the good or bad, whatever it happens to be, whatever the polarity is, that we can begin to relax. We can begin to slow down our need to react, relax, sit quietly, slow down, and see what it is. Where is this pattern? Where is this stuck energy that feels the need to separate me from the thing I'm separating from? And not that polarities are not useful things. Certainly, that we live in non-duality, we function in non-duality, but we don't want it to become a trap. We don't want to be trapped by it and think that we're going to figure out this either or. So allowing and accepting and being able to open to this inclusiveness allows us to just sit again with this authentic equanimity. Good. So let's come on up, please. And well, no, you don't need to come up. Actually, if you're lying down on your back, just roll over onto your belly. We're gonna do the shoulder opener that I'm so incredibly fond of. So lying on your belly, you can then come up to your forearms for a moment. And let's just stay here for a bit before we go into the shoulder opener. Good here to open the legs a little bit wider than the hips, and maybe just sway the hips back and forth a little bit and kind of feel just feel that compression in the lower back. So this is an interesting backward bend that it's hard to hold this for really long periods of time, obviously, because we're holding the body up with muscular tension. But it's good to check in because it can be a very light compression, and we can bring the chest down a bit and very easily release the compression. But it's also a nice position to breathe into that lower back, to take an inhale, feel the shoulders come back a bit, and you just can feel that movement, and exhale and let the shoulders release a bit and feel that release. So this is just a lovely pose to do, and just sort of as upkeep, if you will. Good. So from the forearms, let's stay on the left arm. So we're going to stay on the left arm, and we're going to take the right arm and just slip it under that left armpit and relax down on the right shoulder, just making sure that we don't roll over to the right. So we want to keep the left arm out in front and let that left shoulder relax. And the same with the left hip. It's nice sometimes to bring that left leg up and bend it, and this will kind of let that left hip relax down and stabilize it. You might want to have a pillow for your head. And then if indeed you are having some shoulder stuff, let's just call it stuff, then you can roll a little bit and come out of the intense compression. Maybe put some pillows under you and just support yourself so you're not in the full position. So the more you roll away from it to the right, the less compression. You can kind of play with that. But if you don't have an injury, you can just bring that left shoulder, left hip down, relax your head on a pillow, and we'll just sink in here. I had to remind this friend of mine I went out with recently, and he spent the first 10 minutes just giving me this long list of things that are going wrong. He's getting more intimate with the aging process, and I had to. And he's like, "What is it? What's going on? Why is this happening?" And I had to remind him what Tom Robbins says. He says that there is birth, there's death, and in between, there's maintenance. and it's very powerful, this quality of embodiment, because it allows us to study the fabric of discomfort, and to begin to see that the discomfort is not simply physical, that irritations and angers and boredom and distraction, it can all be forms of discomfort. And if they are ignored or they're fixed, then we don't get the wisdom that's embedded within them. So it's a beautiful, profound study to come into the container, the sacred space of your body, and really be open to exploring the texture and the structure and the fabric and the teachings of discomfort. And that's what I was saying earlier about subtlety and nuance, because we can see how the supposed alleged physical tension can reverberate into many different forms.
So what I'm going to suggest is to take this left hand and just press up a little bit. And it's just nice to roll off of this arm. So roll over to the right and just come onto your back for a moment. So it just feels like the most satisfying way to come out of this. So we just take a rest here for a moment. Just notice how that shoulder is feeling. This might be a nice opportunity to bring the knees up to the chest if you would like. So pulling the knees into the chest like this, especially if you don't squat often, not only for the hips and what you're feeling in the lower back, but it's nice to compress into the digestive system as well. So the digestive system appreciates the compression just like every other part of the body. Good. So you can release that if you're doing it, and we'll roll back over onto the belly. We'll come back up onto the forearms for a moment here. And then we'll get ready for the other side. So again, same thing. We'll just rest on the right forearm, place that left hand under the right armpit, and we're trying to relax down, not go over to the left. Something for the head is lovely. Right arm will be out in front just for support, because you never know when you're going to press up and need to really just come out of it a bit. If you want to bend the right leg up, somehow that tends to even out the hips. It's nice to do that. And then we'll just relax into this.
So another way to approach this exploration that we do, this study of discomfort, is it's not simply just to release the discomfort, although that is a lovely consequence of what we do. Often the body will unwind long held tensions if we are patient and consistent. But what yoga is also asking us to consider is our, let's say, attachment to, or our habits around seeking happiness. And how often have we had experiences where we think this thing, this person, this circumstance is going to make us happy, and lo and behold, it does not. Things shift and things morph. So what yoga is suggesting is, don't be so concerned about seeking happiness, especially in objective experience, but explore what is the cause of happiness. Like, go right to the root of it. And what yoga is suggesting is happiness is to be at home in yourself, to awaken to the truth of who you really are. And I have to say, from my own personal experience, I think it's so important not to turn this into something mystical and esoteric, and only certain special elevated people get to have this. So that's going back to the polarities. That's going back to inclusivity, exclusivity. This is your nature. This is as close to you as your breathing. So we don't have to put names on it. We don't have to put labels on it. We don't even have to go look for it, because we already are it. The looking for it at some point becomes the obstacle. So again, the quality of equanimity allows us to at least take a well-deserved rest from seeking out what we think will make us happy, and continue to explore this exquisite innate sense of open, brilliant awareness that we are, and just come home to ourselves, and we begin to awaken to the truth of who we really are. This is yoga. So again, let's support yourself and press up with that hand, and just roll away from it. So roll off of that arm onto your back. And you can come into a shavasana if you like, or anything you think you need at this point. I'm going to sit up for a few moments and bring closure to our exploration. Let us just close by taking an inner namaste to ourselves for no other reason than we have the great privilege of this existence. I wish you well without limitation. Namaste.